There's a sound a house makes when something inside it is no longer entirely human, and once you have heard it, you never stop listening for it again. We heard it the first time we walked into that hallway, a low creak that came from nowhere and everywhere, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. That sound is why we went back. That sound is why, 6 months after we thought the story was over, we are standing outside the same front door, cameras rolling, because a woman named Renee called our channel at 2 a.m, crying, saying her nephew Caleb was getting bigger every night, and that nobody would believe her unless they saw it for themselves. Welcome back to Midnight Watch. If you're new here, thank you for finding us. If you've been with us since the first Caleb video, you already know how badly that night ended, and you already know we swore we wouldn't go looking for this family again. Circumstances change. Renee reached out through 3 different accounts after we blocked the first one, and eventually sent us a video that we are not going to describe yet, because you need to see where this story starts before you understand where it goes. Before we get into tonight's footage, do us a favor and hit subscribe, and let's push for 80,000 likes on this one, so we can afford to keep chasing stories like this. Now, let's get into it. Renee is Caleb's aunt, his mother's younger sister. Caleb is 12 years old, or he was 12 years old the last time anyone measured him properly, back before his growth chart stopped making sense to the pediatrician, who eventually refused to see him anymore. According to Renee, Caleb started sleepwalking around the same time his father left, wandering into the backyard at night and standing perfectly still under the big oak tree for hours, not responding when anyone called his name. His mother, Renee's sister Priya, chalked it up to grief and stress and put motion sensor lights in the yard. The sleepwalking stopped showing up on camera. What didn't stop was the growth. Renee sent us 3 photographs spaced 2 months apart. In the first, Caleb looks like an ordinary kid, a little small for his age, gap-toothed, wearing a soccer jersey 2 sizes too big. In the second, taken 8 weeks later, he's wearing the same jersey, and it fits him snugly across the shoulders. In the third, taken this past week, the jersey doesn't fit at all anymore. Not because he outgrew in the ordinary sense, but because his frame has changed in a way that makes the fabric strain and pucker it seems that were never designed to stretch that far. His arms in that third photo look wrong in a way none of us could initially explain out loud on camera. Too long for his torso, the joint sitting slightly off from where a shoulder or an elbow should be. Priya has stopped taking Caleb outside during the day. Renee says her sister claims it's because of sensory issues, a phrase she's used with neighbors and with Caleb's school, which pulled him from enrollment after he was absent for 6 consecutive weeks. But Renee doesn't believe it's sensory issues. Renee believes something happens to Caleb after dark that his mother is either protecting him from or protecting the rest of the world from, and she isn't sure which, and that uncertainty is why she calls instead of calling anyone else. We drove out on a Thursday evening. My producer Des in the passenger seat, going quiet the way he always does before a shoot he's nervous about. Neither of us said much on the drive. There's a particular kind of silence that settles into a car when both people are thinking about the same bad thing and don't want to be the one to say it first. The house sat at the end of a gravel road with no streetlights, the kind of property where the darkness starts early and doesn't apologize for it. Renee was waiting for us on the porch, arms crossed against the evening chill, and the first thing she said when we got out of the car wasn't hello. It was, "He knows someone's coming. He always knows." Inside, the house smelled faintly of bleach, an aggressive, recent kind of clean that made both of us glance at each other without saying anything. Priya wasn't home when we arrived. Renee explained that her sister worked a night shift at a distribution warehouse 3 towns over and wouldn't be back until sunrise, which was, she said, exactly the point. She never lets anyone in the house while she's here. This is the only window I have. Renee walked us through the living room, past a hallway lined with school photos that stopped abruptly 2 years back, and stood outside a closed door with a sliding bolt lock mounted on the outside, the kind you'd expect on a shed, not a child's bedroom. "He's in there," she said. "He goes in around 6, before it gets fully dark, and my sister locks it from outside. She thinks I don't know the combination on the padlock, but I used to babysit for the neighbors, and it's the same one Priya's used on everything since she was a teenager." Des asked, gently, why she'd never called anyone before tonight, why she'd never gone to a doctor or the police with what she was describing. Renee's answer was quiet. "Because the one time I brought a doctor by, Unofficially, just a friend of mine who works pediatrics, my sister didn't speak to me for 4 months. And because I don't actually know what I'd be reporting, what crime is my nephew is getting bigger than he should, we set up 2 cameras in the hallway outside Caleb's door and 1 small camera, with Renee's permission and under her direct instruction, mounted high in the corner of the room itself, angled down at the bed, wired to record to a hard drive rather than stream anywhere live. Renee said that was important. She didn't want anything broadcasting in real time. She wanted it recorded first, reviewed second, because she said that whatever happened in that room needs to be looked at slowly in daylight by people who aren't scared yet. At 9:47 that night, the camera in the hallway picked up the first sound, a series of long, deliberate creaks from inside the room, evenly spaced, like something shifting its weight from one side to the other in a slow, rhythmic pattern. Renee's hand found my arm in the dark. "That's new," she whispered. "That didn't used to start this early." We watched the small monitor Des had rigged near the kitchen table. The bedroom camera showing a still, dim room, a shape under a blanket on the bed that seemed, second by second, harder to reconcile with the size of the mattress it occupied. By 10:15, the shape under the blanket had shifted enough that one bare foot extended past the edge of the bed frame, resting against the floor. It was not a child's foot. It was proportioned oddly, elongated through the arch, with toes that curled and flexed independently of each other in a way that made Des mute the audio on his own headphones without being asked. Renee didn't look away from the screen. She'd clearly seen this before, or something close to it, and her stillness told us more than any scream could have. At 11:03, the blanket slid entirely off the bed, and for the first time we saw Caleb's face on camera, tilted toward the ceiling, eyes closed, his jaw working slowly as though he were chewing on something that wasn't there. His skin had taken on a grayish undertone along his collarbones and forearms, patches of it thin and stretched, faintly translucent in the low light, showing the shadow of something moving just beneath the surface, something that did not match the rhythm of a heartbeat or the pattern of a normal circulatory system. Renee finally spoke, so quietly we almost missed it. "He's not sick. Whatever this is, it isn't a disease. It's a process, and I don't think it's finished." We asked her what she meant by finished, and she told us the things she'd been building up to the entire evening, the reason she called us and not a hospital. 2 years ago, before the sleepwalking started, before the growth chart stopped making sense, there had been another child in that house, a foster placement Priya had taken in briefly, a boy close to Caleb's age. Renee said the boy stayed only 11 days. She said her sister told everyone he'd been reassigned to a different family through the agency. She said she had never, in the 2 years since, been able to find any record of that boy anywhere, under any name, in any system, and that she had stopped asking about him out loud after the second time Priya screamed at her to never mention him again. At 11:41, the bedroom camera picked up a sound none of us were prepared for, a second breathing pattern, layered under Caleb's, slower, deeper, coming from somewhere in the room that wasn't the bed at all. Des leaned toward the monitor and adjusted the gain, and in the grain of the low-light footage, we could make out what looked like a section of closet door standing slightly ajar, a darkness inside it that seemed thicker than it should have been, as though the space behind that door didn't fully belong to the same room as everything else. Renee stood up from the table without a word and walked toward the hallway, and we followed with a second camera, because that is, at the end of the day, what we do, even when every instinct is telling us not to. She stopped in front of Caleb's door and pressed her palm flat against it, not to open it, just to feel whatever was happening on the other side. "I need you to understand something," she said, not turning around. "I don't think Priya is hiding a sickness. I think she's raising something, and I think Caleb is turning into it, and I think that boy in the closet 2 years ago is the reason why." At 12:02, the growling sound started, low and constant, and the bolt lock on the outside of the door began to rattle in its housing, not violently, but steadily, the way something tests a boundary it already knows it's stronger than. Renee stepped back from the door and looked at us, and for the first time all night, we saw real fear on her face instead of exhaustion. "We need to leave," she said. "Not because it's dangerous right now, because if he gets out while we're all still in the house, none of us are the ones he's going to want." We packed equipment in under 4 minutes, moving quietly through the dark house, past a hallway of photographs that stopped 2 years ago, past a bleach smell that made a horrible kind of sense now as we pulled out the gravel driveway, headlights sweeping across the front of the house. Every window on the second floor went dark at exactly the same moment, all at once, like someone had reached up and shut them off in a single motion. None of us spoke until we were back on the main road. Renee texted us the following morning. She said Priya had come home to find the hallway camera equipment gone and the bedroom door standing open, the bolt lock,